Hey everyone. Oh, Alessio's the only one ready for today.
I just switched my background because I remembered that I have to set his background.
Wow. Awesome. How is everyone doing? Alive. We're at that status. I literally have had one-on-ones this week with various people, and they're like, "Oh, how's everyone getting on?" And the answer's like, "No." Okay. So, awesome. So, Graham, over to you for a demo.
Yeah, sure. So it's kind of a bit tricky for me to demonstrate stuff, but I'll try share screen. So this is basically a test GitLab Pages website John set up in pre-environment. As we can see, this is loading correctly. You need to be logged in, which is why you see that redirect there. If I refresh this a few times, we can see two different things. We should see some metrics coming through now for pre. No, maybe not. Okay, so then pre. So we can see I've actually just fixed this metric. This is basically now metrics coming from Kubernetes. I can, oops, I'll actually share my screen with that. Desktop 2, perfect. If we go here and GitLab get pods, we can see if I do we can see if I grep these. Okay, so I go back to my page now and refresh it. We can see that this is basically the requests that I'm doing, and we can tell that usually because they come from a Fedora host, and I'm one of the very few people that run Fedora here. So we can see that these requests are actually going to the container. If I pages 01 g pre, we can look at proxy, and we can see that the only backend now is pages GKE, which we can see is sending the traffic. So the VMs are no longer being used in pre. And then I guess the final thing I can demonstrate is that we actually are getting logs into Elasticsearch. So I'll do pages pre, pages inf pre. And so once again, if I filter out the readiness requests that come in, we can see that these should all be from me, Fedora Linux. And basically that's my IP as well, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, we can basically see that we've got logs flowing. In terms of metrics, I'll quickly jump back. We have, it looks like we do have SLI metrics now, but they're very spotty. Probably because we've got this site just gets such a small amount of requests. It's very hard to get accurate data. But yeah, so we can see that we've got metrics, we've got logs. The Pages app seems to be working from very, very, very simple brief tests. And so that's kind of the status of where we're at. Where I'm basically more or less, unless I find something else that kind of jumps out to me, kind of happy to say that Pages and Pre is now pretty much done or pretty much ready.
Awesome. That's great progress.
Has anyone got any questions?
Yeah, I had a couple.
Sure.
Just 1A is just an FYI and is a good MR to follow because I'm really excited about having rate limiting for Pages, and we'll have to see when this lands and how it lines up with the Kubernetes migration. We might need to make a Helm chart update for this as well if it hasn't been done yet, to toggle it on and off.
Yeah, so I looked at it earlier. We can toggle it on and off, but unfortunately the Helm chart's got all this logic hard coded, which means that we're going to have to get possibly chart changes done, because it's like if you set this setting, then I'll set this, and like basically there's some places we tell Pages in the Helm chart it's not behind a proxy, and then there's kind of some places we do, and this is just because of how we set it up, that it's not just exposed directly to the internet. We have HA proxy, so all of the smarts they put in the Helm chart, like the if statements on the config map, I think we may need some better logic, or like the option to force override or something like that. But it's there in the Helm chart, but I couldn't get a way to get the options that we needed with the current setup. So I think some more work might be needed there from the chart side.
But as far as I know, rate limiting isn't ready yet, right? Like,
oh, sorry. No, yeah, sorry. Let me take a step back. So rate limiting, yes, to do that, we need to fix this other thing that I was talking about, which is getting the proxy support. So basically we need to get Pages to see and log the real IPs. At the moment, it just says everything's coming from HA proxy. So sorry, so we need to do that, and that's everything I was talking about. And then once we have that in place, then obviously when the rate limiting is work done, we can rate limit by IP.
Great. And B, did you just copy requests and limits from the registry service, or did you try something different, or did you use the Helm defaults, or is that still like a TBD?
Good question. So Scarbeck actually got the pods up and running, so I haven't actually checked that. I was doing all the other bits around it, I guess. But we can have a look right now. Get deployment, GitLab Pages. And the only thing we have set is requests of 50 milli CPU. So it's basically, we don't set any requests or limits at all at the moment. And we should obviously rectify that. I'm not familiar enough with Pages to know what we should set that to. I'll have to go and have a look at the VM setup and see how that works. But yeah, that's something we should obviously look at.
Yeah, and C is something I realize the reason why we can't Alessio is because we terminate HTTPS at Pages. So it's a layer 4 at HA proxy. It's a TCP load balancer. And because of that, we can't expect, like, we can't look at cookies.
I mean, okay, yeah, understood. I mean, just percentage routing, at least in Canary. I mean, in staging, right? So that we see. I mean, it doesn't change that often, right? The Pages, how it is designed, it's probably just gonna install the same version that is running on main. But that day that we update the version, then if something goes horribly wrong, we see an error spike.
Yeah, we could do that. We can do that. Although we're right now having this discussion about, like, we need a way to force traffic to the main stage, and this again would be a problem there, right? Because without, like,
yeah, but it's different service on a different host name. So there are I mean, the reason why we do layer 4 proxy is because people can bring their own certificate, their own name servers and things like that.
Yeah.
So I will not consider that the same way as we consider the main application.
The front end for web, yeah.
But in theory, we should be able to do HTTPS. So not layer 4 proxying for the domain we own. So in that case, we should be able to do the cookie thing. Maybe it's too much for the first iteration, but I mean, at least in the staging environment, if we can just say 95% of traffic goes to canary, 5% go to main, because I'm already thinking in what I want to have the main stage, the canary staging being more, taking more load than the main stage. But if we can do this, we will see errors. And this is the only reason why we deploy that thing on staging.
So I think what you're saying is like for HA proxy, we create a new front end for gitlab.io, which is, which we can do all the cookie inspection. And then for custom domains, maybe there is no canary routing for custom domains. Like maybe we don't care as much, right? And we only do canary routing for gitlab.io. So that would be possible. Would pages work though? Like I think we would have to make a change for pages with that, or would it?
I think it should work because if you do, so out of the box, it is doing HTTPS termination for both, for everything, right? So the GitLab IO and custom domains. But I'm quite sure that because we own GitLab IO, we can just generate an extra certificate and do HTTPS to HTTPS proxying.
Mm-hmm.
And it will just work.
You two are going to have to put an issue together. So for everyone else on the call, we are preparing to reorder the auto deploy pipeline, and this will give us better coverage for the mixed deployment testing challenges that we're facing. But as part of that, what we need is we need to make some improvement. We don't have full canaries with everything, but the order that we are proposing will kind of rely on that. So.
Yeah, okay. Those are all my questions.
How do we fit that stuff in? So it sounds like for that, there's some decent infra changes and some testing on pages. Should we assume that pages will be on Kubernetes when we make this shift over and actually try and get this stuff up on right now and test it?
Pages will be deployed with auto deploy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I think we should. Yeah, I mean, like if we're talking like the timing of creating a canary for pages, I think should come. Well, I guess that can be done in parallel to the Kubernetes migration, but we should avoid making too many changes at once. So I don't know.
We should, I mean, I guess we should also avoid making this work on VMs and then having to make it all work again on Kubernetes, right? We're in progress.
Yeah. So
and we just start the migration with Canary. So we say that the first official pages running on Kubernetes will be staging Canary.
That's what I would prefer to do. But I think like creating this Canary for pages is like kind of a big task. We have to create this new front end in HA proxy. We have to use the GitLab, with the GitLab.io certificate, and then we have to make sure that it still works with pages. So
we can probably take this a bit easier. We just create a group on Canary, let's say something like testing pages and we just do a new front end for their own GitLab.io domain. So we can safely test on this specific project or namespace, whatever, and this will be an extra pages running there.
Yeah, we could do that. Or another option is to do what you suggested, which is just do percentage routing and live with the fact that you have traffic going. Because I would say it's fairly low risk, right?
Yeah, in Canary is definitely low risk.
So maybe that's the better option. We just like create a canary for pages, do 5%, and just leave it at that.
Because I assume we would want to, it would be helpful to have a canary for the actual pages migration. Like, how would we roll this out safely to production otherwise?
Yeah, we we would do one cluster at a time. That's how we would do it.
Okay.
But the thing is with pages, it's like we can probably drain a cluster for pages like so much easier than Rails, right? Like,
yeah, it's stateless.
It's stateless. It scales up quickly. It's all these things, but still, we could. I think it's reasonable for us to create the canary pages with 5% traffic routing, and if we're okay with it being not like toggleable by users, then we'll just do that. So I'll open up an issue for that.
Super, thanks, Jeff. Awesome, great. Has anyone else got questions around pages on pre? Nope. I'm just going to mention discussion point 3 because it's just an FYI. We have one outstanding pages blocker issue, but it is in progress. So it's still expected to hit this milestone. So hopefully we'll get a change very soon. Awesome. So Graham, do you want to show us some logs?
Yeah, I mean, this was, I kind of realized maybe people have already seen
No. I want to jump in, Graham, because I want to just say that we haven't had logs for coming up to nearly a year. So let's not undermine the significance of this work, right?
Yeah, sure. Okay, let me just quickly show from, let's say, one of the pipelines, auto deploy pipelines today. So for those of you unaware, we finally have some kind of visibility back into our Kubernetes deployments. So just trying to find one that's maybe this one. Non-prod canary, let's see. Yes, but not many, no. Pick the one, probably has the, this might have been such a small change that the logic I used to get the logs didn't pick it up. Let me try and find the production deploy today. Prod deploy. Excuse me. This one should have it. No. Oh, damn it. I swore I was checking this and this was all working today, unless I broke it again, which wouldn't surprise me, but. Here we go. Here's at least the gprod deploy. There we go. Cool. There we go. So you can see here now we're actually getting a basically a log of, you know, using just plain old kubectl rollout status behind the scenes to basically just kind of give us an update on what's going on during the deployment. So this will happen in real time. It'll just say, you know, I'm waiting for this to I'm waiting for new pods to come up. I'm waiting for old pods to come, you know, to be terminated, and just basically give you an idea into what's going on. It's not the best solution by far. It's got some rough edges, but at least it gives us something. It's better than nothing, to be perfectly honest. Rollout status as well has got some interesting idiosyncrasies to it in that it won't necessarily make it clear if a pod is crash looping. Like it won't just be like, oh, I see a pod crash looping and bubble that up. You'll just basically see that replicas haven't progressed and things like that. So this is by no means the most ideal solution. And we're still using essentially Helm's logic to determine if a release if an apply is successful and to roll back if it's not. But yeah, but at least we have something to watch now if you ever want to jump into one of these while you're doing a deploy.
Awesome. Thanks so much for getting that, Graham. Cool. Any questions on logs?
I had one question about the previous topic. I didn't get, what was the risk with doing percentage deploys?
The risk is that, well, the risk is that if For our other Canary deployments, people have the option of setting the cookie to say true or false. It's like GitLab _ canary equals true or GitLab canary equals false. And you can set this, there's a web interface for setting this on next.gitlab.com. That allows you to that allows you to opt in or out of the canary. For other reasons I won't go into, that's not really working because we do this percentage routing and we're trying to fix that. But in any case, because HA proxy is layer 4 for pages, it's a TCP load balancer, there's no way for us to inspect a cookie. So there would be no way for us to allow users to opt out of Canary, and that was the reason. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks.
Now that you mentioned this, Jarv, I also realized that we are serving a different domain. So we will not be able to read that cookie because it's a cookie for gitlab.com and for gitlab.io. So we need another web page where you can toggle the I would say that we don't need that. I mean, we just do percentage on pages. It's a different story. We should not mess with the cookie at all.
The more I'm thinking about this, the more I agree with you, I think. And then we always have the option to drain it if we need to, right? So,
yeah,
that's fine. Cool.
Awesome. Cool. Okay, and then one last thing I just wanted to mention was so as part of the Kubernetes migration working group, we've been kind of coordinating, so it's represented in there. We go along and talk about Kubernetes, of course, distribution are there, and quality are very involved, as well as random. We sometimes get random people from development. So right now we have people from pages are joining us. But one thing we've been talking about is kind of preparing for Gitlab and Prefect migrations. And there's been kind of some requests for testing. So quality will lead on that. And they're going to test out basically what happens, like, is Gitlab possible to migrate? What's the impact on Gitlab if that happens? And also Prefect. Now, when we went through this a few months ago, there was a kind of assumption as we came out that Gitlab was going to be really hard and that Prefect would be really easy and was ready to go. And as we have discussed this more, it has been pointed out that actually Prefect cannot be migrated right now because the chart is in beta. So distribution don't have time to help us work on this, prioritize this. So this is a known blocker for the Prefect migration, and quality are now going to go back and test Gitlab. One of the slight complexities was that what people don't think is possible, which will have to be possible, is whether you can have a hybrid. So we will have to have this possible because of the way we do our rollouts anyway. But actually what we're also now saying is that Prefect would not be on on Kubernetes, and Gitlab potentially would be. So quality are going to do some testing and see what that looks like and see what the impact is and whether that's actually possible. But I think from our side, like, I very much doubt either of these will be ready for us to consider migrating for some time. Alessio, go ahead. I can see you warming up.
Yeah. I mean, I have a question. Can you expand a bit on why the chart being in beta is stopping us from doing the Prefect on Kubernetes?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's just simply, I know we make a lot of changes to things as we do the migration. So certainly we will be contributing that way. I think it was more of it's more of an indicator that other teams are not comfortable with things being ready for us to go ahead.
Okay.
Yes, so we'll keep, this is not a kind of wrapped up final like status, but as it stands right now, like I would not be suggesting we attempt to touch either of these two in Q4. Cool. Great. Is there anything else people want to bring up? Nope. I do want to say welcome, Felipe, and thank you for joining us today. Great to have you.
I was just I was just observing and being quiet. There was something that I wanted to ask, but I didn't want to deviate the conversation.
Go for it.
Regarding pages, it's not being fronted by Cloudflare, right? And this is we are doing layer 4 because the customers are providing other certificates. But I was wondering, because Cloudflare now can do advanced certificate management, and it can also issue Let's Encrypt. So you could actually front pages with Cloudflare while still providing certificates for the customers, which will give us much more flexibility on whether we want to do canary or not on the background.
I think there's an epic open for moving pages behind Cloudflare that might cover some of this. I don't know how up to date it is, but I can probably dig it up.
I believe products are investigating, but yeah, let me find the epic. It's certainly possible. I think the question is whether from a product decision, that would be what we'd want to do. But let me.
Yeah, there's also another point that maybe wasn't considered. And from someone living in Europe, using pages is already a pain in terms of GDPR compliance. And you kind of can deal this describing that you are running in these things, and you point to GitLab terms of service for things like that. But if you put even another extra layer on top of that, that's basically you think that you're providing your certificate and that everything is trusted between the client and GitLab servers, and now you put an extra entity on top of it that can generate that certificate for you and can eavesdrop the content of the conversation. So I don't know. I mean, how much are we suffering from not having Cloudflare in front of custom domains? Do we have metrics for this?
A little bit. I think the bigger thing is just basic rate limiting. Like definitely like protection from the like full scale attack and stuff would be great. I mean, it'd be great to have Cloudflare in front of it. There's definitely would be great to do it. It's just the time and effort. And really from the product perspective, we would have to basically do work in pages to talk to Cloudflare's APIs to do all that and make it smoother. It'd have to become a functionality in the product. It's something we couldn't switch out. And I like, there's an epic. I think people want to do it. It's just finding the time to do it in that trade-off. But yeah, I think the big thing we suffer from more than anything is just people actually abusing it like deliberately. They're like, I'll put something like a Android APK to download on GitLab pages, and then we get like, thousands of requests. And Cloudflare would help us with that a little bit. Definitely we could use cloud caching because a lot of the content should be static. But yeah, I think it's just doing those technical pieces to make it work.
It will definitely take a big chunk of the bandwidth traffic being used.
I mean, there was debate about the future of GitLab pages in general a little bit, right? Like perhaps, or perhaps not. Maybe
I think there probably was previously. I think last year maybe there was a discussion. I think it's with the whole migration and everything. I think it's here to stay. It serves a purpose. I saw it mentioned on we have the kind of product view of like of the loved status. It's on there and it's kind of in the in between. Like it's not loved, but I think I won't be surprised if it gets built out further in the future. Awesome. Great. Thank you very much for the discussions and questions and demos, everyone. I hope you all have a good rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye.